What's up, everyone? Welcome back. The roster is done. And just to remind everyone kind of why I'm doing this roster, for one, it's to kind of correct for some of the rankings that I disagree with EA that were just honestly so off, in my opinion, that made it harder for me to use the EA rosters. So some changes to a lot of guys, which I talk about in all these videos. And then the other thing is just kind of a lower average overall. It just makes for a more realistic free agent market, makes a higher demand for the true superstars, and it also makes it a lot harder to have depth in your franchise. So that's why I do this roster, and again, it's done. It's uploaded as 2017 real under my gamertag Chubby Dubs. So we're on to the Redskins today. I have them 24th in my power rankings. It's going to be a team that has a lot of things going on this offseason that's going to make changes on how we view them going into next season. You know, Kirk Cousins could or could not be there. Basically all their receivers are free agents, and then the defense still needs to be improved. So let's take a look at the roster. Kirk Cousins goes down. You just kind of talked about him, may or may not be there next year. Running backs, I like Robert Kelly, but I don't think he's really the guy. He's just kind of a power back. And then Chris Thompson, good receiving back, but not a ton of depth behind him. Matt Jones has been kind of phased out. And then at receiver, Deshaun Jackson, free agent. I saw someone predicting he goes back to Philadelphia. That would actually be really interesting to me. Pierre Garcon, kind of an underrated receiver. He's really just kind of seems like he's been around for a while, but he's only 30, 31, and he's really solid. He's been a huge part of Kirk Cousins' development just to kind of have that number one guy there. And then Crowder, Doxson. This is a really deep receiving core. I like Ryan Grant a lot. The tight end, Jordan Reed. Don't need to talk much about him. Trent Williams is the second best left tackle in my roster. He's a total stud. The rest of this line stays about the same. I think Spencer Long went down a little bit. Brandon Sheriff goes up. And then on the defense, it's a pretty solid unit, but they seem to really lack like an elite pass rusher. Chris Baker had a really good year. He goes up by I think like 4. And then really that D-line outside of Chris Baker is very thin. Going to need to be addressed. Ryan Kerrigan kind of seems like a number 2 pass rusher to me. I haven't ever really considered him to be a guy that's going to generate your defense to be an elite pass rush, but he's a solid player, kind of a do-it-all linebacker as well. Junior Galette, one of those players that I explained the reason I do this roster. I mean, he's been an 80 overall for like 2 years in a row, and he hasn't even really played since like 2014. So he goes very far down. These linebackers, Mason Foster, Will Compton, and Sua Cravens. It's a pretty solid group. I mean, you have your run stuffers here, and then Sua Cravens, a great coverage, converted safety. And then Trent Murphy and Preston Smith, kind of solid pass rushers, which it kind of makes it awkward on this defense because they're probably not going to really address the position. But I'm not sure any of these guys are number 1 pass rushers. And then Josh Norman goes up. I love Josh Norman. I think he had an awesome season. Pretty quietly. So helpful in the run game too. And then the rest of the corners is very thin. So definitely a position of need there. And the secondary as a whole, you know, the safeties could use some help as well. D'Angelo Hall converted over to safety, was decent. And then pretty much nothing from the strong safety. Duke and Anacho ended up taking that starting role over. And yeah. So that's going to do it for Washington heading into next year. I don't see them making the playoffs. I think they're going to lose a lot. So yeah, if you like this video, subscribe and give me some comments on what you think of the ratings, guys. Thanks.